Hey everybody, a question I got is when I extract a subject from the background to move them into a different background, in other words, we're doing a basic composite, sometimes we get a halo around the subject. And no, I'm not talking about the game Halo that you can play on an Xbox or your computer. It's actually an outline on your subject that looks like this. What I want to do is clean it up so it looks like this. So what is my favorite technique in doing that? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, this channel is dedicated to improving your photography and as a photo artist. With that out of the way, let's jump into a Photoshop technique that was taught to me by Joel Grimes years ago. And it was basically brought up by a question that was asked, hey Steve, when I do a cutout and I'm doing a composite, a lot of times I'll get a halo around my subject. What is your favorite way of getting rid of that halo? And so I'm going to share what I learned from Joel Grimes because, again, I'm not smart enough to figure this out on my own. So I'll share the technique. This is just one of many different ways of doing it, but it is my favorite way of doing it. So as an example, if I was going to do a basic composite, and a lot of this has to do with the lighting that you do and your f-stop, what the settings are and stuff. Sometimes when you do a cutout using the feature that's built into Photoshop, and that is the select in the mask feature, which I did in advance here in this example, you can see that if I zoom in on this, so here we have a dark gray background, or sort of medium gray background right here, but let me zoom in on this. And you could see, hopefully this shows up in the video, you could see on the arm here and stuff and all the way around, there's a halo around that, and we want to get rid of that. Now, if I take a look at her hair over here, everything looks pretty good with the hair. So I'm happy with that. What I don't want to do is use this feature here. If I come over here to the mask, click on this, and let me push this up a little bit so we can see this. There's a feature here that if I choose select and mask, or even over here, doesn't matter. Pick on it over here. But again, you could select it over here on the far right side. You get this major dialog box that opens up on the side here. And the problem I have is if I go over here to play with radius and over here with shift edge, in fact, I'll do this shift edge. You can see how that brings that halo away from the subject matter. But the problem is when you start doing these things, it affects the hair. And it gets really funky, especially when you got hair that goes really fine. It goes out, it gets it all choppy and weird. So I find that this is not a great place to do that. So I'm going to cancel that and go back to our normal look here. And I'm going to duplicate this with Control-J, Command-J on a Mac. So I can do a before and after for you. So let's do Control-J. Again, Command-J on a Mac to duplicate this. I'm going to hide the one below. And here's what was taught to me. Number one, I'm going to go on the mask. That's the key. You got to make sure you're on the mask. I'm going to hold the Alt key down. That would be Option on a Mac, and I'm clicking on the mask. That way I can actually see the mask. And what I want to do is go to Filter drop-down menu here. And when I choose that, I'm going to come down to the Blur category. And on the flyout menu, I'm going to choose Gaussian Blur. Now, based on the resolution of your image, generally I find that between 2 to sometimes, I would say 1.5 to 2, 2.5, you want to soften the edge up. So with this, I think this is more of a low-res image, so I'm going to go about 1.5 on my radius, and you can see the before and after here when I turn this on and off. See how they just softened up the edge? That's what I want to do first. So I'm going to click on OK to accept that. Now what I want to do is hold the Alt key down again, Option on a Mac, and click on the mask again. So now I get to see the actual image, but the key thing is I'm on the mask. And now that's all I have to do is Control L on my keyboard. On a Mac, that would be Command L. So Control L. versus Command L. And I play with these sliders here on levels. And watch what happens when I move this to the right a little bit, and I grab this node over here, and I move that to the right. Notice how I see my edge disappearing. Okay? But the problem with doing that is, and I'm over-exaggerating that, I'm going to cancel this before and after, because it's affecting, in fact, let me go back here, and let's take a look over here. Let's navigate up and over here. It's really cutting into her a lot, but that's not what I was concerned about. What I was concerned about is the hair. I mean, it does all this funky stuff to the hair, and that's what I don't want to do. So I'm going to cancel that. So here's what you do. Here's the correct technique. I'm going to back out of this so I can see my whole image. In fact, let's make this a little bit smaller so we can see this. And what I want to do is I'm going to go on the mask, make sure I'm on the mask, and I'm going to grab my lasso tool, and I'm just going to carefully go right here, right where the hair starts on her head, which is right above the ears. I might not be doing, I should zoom in close, but this is, again, for demo, come across here. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting this region, and I want to invert that selection, because right now I'm selecting the head, top of the head and the hair, and I don't want that. I want everything else but the hair area. So Shift Control I, this should be Shift Command I on a Mac. That's inverting that selection. So when I go back to the Control L, now let me zoom in on this so we can see this. Hopefully this shows up in the video. And I do Control L again. And I move those sliders to make my adjustment. Now, I'm going to over-exaggerate this by really pushing this in. But if I take a look at the hair area, like last time you saw what a mess I had, but because I have this active selection here, let me pull this down so you can see this. You can see that it's leaving the hair alone. And that's the beauty of this technique. Now, the key thing, again, is I'm on the mask when I'm doing the levels and with that active selection. So I'm telling it to apply this to the entire image except the hair area. And I love this technique. I use this all the time if I get that darn halo. And it just does a beautiful job of getting rid of the halo for my composition. Click on OK to accept that. And here's let me activate this on the bottom. There's before, after, before, after. Nice and clean. If we take a look at the head area here, let me just hit the deselect to get rid of the marching ants. You can see as I do this and turn this on and off, it's not affecting the hair area because I protected that. So that's a technique I use quite often when I'm doing a composite. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions regarding that, please email me. And again, my email will be showcased here. It's stevenphotoartist@gmail.com. If this didn't make sense, please email me again. And if you could do me a favor also, hopefully you learned something. If you would please like this video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. That way, the next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. Okay, so with that out of the way, again, hopefully you learned something. And let's do this again. Get that camera out. Let's start practicing. And you know what I always say, and that is get out and make mistakes with the camera. Why? Because this is the way we learn, by making mistakes and analyzing what could I have done better to improve those photographs. So literally keep thinking out of the box. Until next time, see ya.